Okay, so glad you all could join us today. And yes, this is the OER Community of Learning, kind of a introduction and way for us to say hello and meet everyone. So one part of this community of learning is kind of a discussion and having an opportunity to work together on some of these ideas throughout the semester. So this is a good chance for us to put some faces to names. So first, our Scholarly Communication Committee. If we have some members from that committee here too, if you all want to start by introducing yourselves, can start with either way, Arlene.
Hi, I'm Arlene Salazar. I'm one of the subject librarians at Alkic Library, and just a member of the committee.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Towery. I'm the copyright officer and a member of the committee, and I'm going to be leading the discussion on copyright and licensing.
Hi, I'm Scott Pope. I'm an acquisitions librarian, so I work with the journals and databases. And I'm also a subject librarian for math and physics.
I should have said too, I'm also the subject librarian for theater and dance.
Yeah, so throughout the semester, if you all have questions or even about this or other things, you know some folks to kind of get in touch with. But, so I guess next we can talk just a little about the OER. It's not only about OERs, but it is an OER. So part of these modules is we pulled together information from other universities and sources to create this. And it's also been peer reviewed. We did 2 rounds of peer review, one with librarians and curators and another with faculty members. And then this past spring, we had our first official spring cohort with about 15 attendees. And so this is our second in that version, the fall cohort. And that peer review process we have found really helpful because some of times that has come up as a concern with OER materials is about that quality of work. And so that was an important thing we wanted to incorporate in this community of learning, was to make sure that it's top quality. And so we're going to continue that peer review process throughout. So to keep improving and adding to and be sure that we're reviewing any new material. So I guess without further ado, let's start to meet all of you. And I can kind of go through just based on who's on my screen, but if you'll go ahead and say kind of who you are and what department you're with, and then just kind of a brief idea about what made you decide to sign up for this course and any other thoughts you might have. So how about Paul Hollingsworth?
Yeah, I'm Paul Hollingsworth. I'm one of the instructional designers with Odell. So I'm really interested in OER because I'm an instructional designer, and I want to see what's out there available for faculty to use and what we can recommend and how to use OER effectively in instructional design. And I'm just interested in other reasons. Just the more knowledge I have on any one thing or anything, is the more I can pass it along and share it. So I have taken an OER course this summer through OER TX. I can't remember the name of it, but it was something, and I did that. And I did a little German handout and put that in for my OER. It can stand to be improved, but
that's actually a project we're working on. Is we're going to take this OER, the text materials and the video and the Canvas, and move it onto OER TX. So we're going to convert it. That's
fantastic.
Yeah, that's a project we're doing too. It should be up by spring.
And that's it for me, really, I think.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. How about let's see, Tamara Butcher?
Sure. So I'm Tamara Butcher. I am the Digital Literacy Program Coordinator with the University Libraries. But before this, about 3 or 4 months ago, I was also an instructional designer with Odell. So I'm seeing some of my old colleagues in the room, which is pretty cool. I've always been interested in OER. I think one of the very first things I was asked to do in Odell when I first got to the country 5 years ago was to look into what OER repositories are around, just as I think it was to give me something to do. And since then I've been like, oh, this is fantastic. I need to know more about this. So yeah, I'm very into the idea. We're looking at 1 or 2 things here in the library as well, where we want to keep things open and accessible to all. So it's a good topic to stay on top of.
Yeah, cool. We're glad to have you in the libraries, all within Texas State, so we can share. How about Kaylee Castillo?
Hi, so I'm Kaylee. I'm also with Odell. I'm one of the newest instructional designers. So yeah, I'm kind of just joining to absorb as much information as I can. I'm pretty new to the idea. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what I can learn. I think anything that I take here will help faculty, as much resources as we can provide, and ultimately students. I was just getting my coffee this morning, and I was hearing like a student tour guide, and the tour guide was like talking about how much textbooks cost, and he's like, make sure you guys budget, because it can cost like hundreds of extra dollars. I was like, how funny, what a coincidence. But yeah, so that's why I'm excited.
That is so true. Very cool. Welcome. How about David Gibbs?
Hello, everyone. I'm David Gibbs. I am an associate professor and the new chair of the Health Information Management Department. And we have quite a few online students in our program. We do have a campus-based cohort for our undergraduate class, but we also have a fully online undergraduate program, and a few years ago started a fully online master's program in health information management. And our professional organization, AHIMA, as well as our accrediting body, KHIM, is very interested and concerned about textbook costs and keeping the value high for students in our profession. And a service activity that I'm involved with through one of our professional organizations is involved with identifying online materials to help professors of health informatics. It kind of came out of nursing. Nursing informatics is a growing enterprise now, and a lot of nurses need some help in teaching informatics. That's not really their strongest area. And so there's a big effort to identify repositories of resources that are available. It's not under the name OER, but that's kind of what they're talking about, and it makes sense for that to be the core. So for a variety of reasons, I'm interested in this topic. And then as a new chair, I'm here 8 to 5 now, so I've got a little bit of time to invest in these things that in the past I just didn't have time to get into. For the benefit of my faculty, I thought I would take this class and learn more about OER and share it, because many of our faculty members would love to use more online resources for our students to not have to buy these expensive books. And we just haven't had a chance to figure out how to do that. And maybe I can help answer some of those questions and shine a light on that.
Oh, very cool. That's exciting. Welcome. And Leslie Hale, got to go next.
Hi, I am also an instructional designer with Odell, along with Paul and Kaylee. So I have some projects coming up that are hoping to incorporate OER, and so I'm just here to learn more. And like Kaylee said, this is something I've been interested in for a while, because I sympathize with students having to spend so much money on textbooks and resources, and so that's something that I would really like to have a part in helping them out with. So I'm excited to learn more.
Okay, and Dana Willett.
Hi, everyone. This is Dana. I'm over in the Office of Distance and Extended Learning, and I'm extremely interested in this group for a couple of different reasons. One, all my friends are here. Second, I'm co-chairing with Vedaram and Sriraman a committee for affordable learning materials here at Texas State. We participated in and worked with faculty in the university libraries in writing 5 successful grants to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board to fund OER and fund OER implementation in 5 courses, all in the core and all online. And thrilled to say those are all underway, and our instructional design staff, as you can see, a lot of participating. Many of them have been assigned projects in this, and then we also had an internal grant program, and so we funded 3 people so far, 3 faculty members so far for OER development projects. They're actually going to create materials as well as implement it in their courses. So we've had an instructional design role, and then sort of I suppose a campus leadership role in helping bring some attention to affordable learning materials, including open education resources. So I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. Thanks for putting this together.
Well, great, thanks. It's good we have quite a good diverse group of folks, a lot of instructional designers. That's good. But I guess, well, next up, before we kind of get started with just general questions, any general questions or discussions about things you all have heard so far that you want to learn a little more about at this point?
I'd like to hear more about what Stephanie mentioned about moving the content onto TX, the TX OER repository. What's the kind of timeline and plans around that?
We're taking the course as it is now, so we're not gonna worry about anything that changes from now, in case we make some drastic changes. But we're gonna take it, and this semester try to move over there. I think there are 5 modules. Try to move that over and put it on that platform. They have OERTX has its own open platform. So that's going to be the issue, is just making it more open than it is in Canvas, because right now it's only open to, I mean, it's open, but somebody can't, it's not as usable. So that's the plan. And we did receive a grant from OER Scalcom, which is a sort of a pass-through funding organization in North Carolina. And what they do is they got an NIH grant, I believe, or an IMLS grant, which is a museum and library government agency. And so they're passing through grants. It's a small grant, but it helps the library. And it should be, I think everything has to be up and working by the 1st of February.
Very cool. I think I've spent a little bit of time on that repository, and it looks pretty cool. I do think it needs more stuff though. So yeah. I'm glad that you're adding to it.
That was our thought, is that we want people to do it. So we should do it first, or maybe we're not maybe the first. I mean, but we should get on it, is what we were thinking.
Yeah, and just to clarify, OER Texas is something that anyone at Texas State could also use that platform too, right? Very cool. It's kind of newer, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't say something wrong turn. But well, let's see. A couple of kind of questions just for general discussion, but so around campus, there's talk about textbook affordability, and some of these conversations, like Kaylee mentioned, even in with the students this morning. But are there other things going on in your department, or things you've been hearing about, or projects around OER? Any other kind of news stuff that you've heard of been happening?
I would just say that it often comes up when I'm working with the faculty member that they will, they'll have a plan to record a lecture or create some kind of interactive activity or something. And I try to tell them, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's see if we can find something that already exists out there that, that way you don't have to do this. And a lot of them just kind of, and I mean, me too, you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what's out there until you go looking for it. And so that has come up a lot in different projects that I've worked on, that, we make a plan to develop something ourselves, and then we get to looking and find out that exactly what we wanted already exists out there. So I think it's just a matter of finding it, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, but
We do now have access to Canvas Commons. So that is that's what I think is the simplest way, is to actually go out, and when you open Canvas Commons, I think it's in a Canvas site. If you look on the left frame, it should just be there, I think. And you just have to unclick Texas State to get more than just Texas State. So that's where I found most of the stuff that's in my, the module I helped create, just by looking there. And I use it for presentations and other things if I have a topic that I don't want to recreate a video or something. And that's why we don't have a lot of original videos in this, is because we found them elsewhere, and wanted just to highlight that you don't always have to create something.
I'd like to ask, with course design, how long does it take y'all to do an online course? Say, it seems like it would be very intensive.
Oh, normally we have a 2-semester process, a semester for design and a semester for development, which is actually getting the content into Canvas and getting the course ready to teach. So in ODEL, that's typically the process that we follow, is 2 semesters.
Yeah, and have you noticed any particular places that you had good luck finding OERs? I know I've tended to look at like OpenStax and check.
I teach a library course at UT, and I use an open textbook, but I just found it by searching, just a Google search for my topic, and happened upon it. And it turns out it's a textbook that was written by 2 former students of my class that I teach. So yeah, so it's like my success story. And one of the, they're now librarians at University of Kentucky. And so it was on the University of Kentucky institutional repository. So I just linked to it, and download so I can read it whenever. But yeah, it's just a PDF, and I think it's openly licensed. A lot of legal textbooks aren't completely open. They're not CC BY. They're usually CC BY ND, because lawyers don't want their work taken out of context. They think if it's mixed with inaccurate content, so they usually choose that. Not all of them, but that's kind of a trend in law books. Mary's here now.
I was just going to say, if you want to introduce Mary.
Hi, Mary. We all just went around and introduced ourselves and just said where we work and our name.
Oh, I think you're muted though.
Welcome. Yeah, that's a great background.
I was going to, well, I think Dana put some of the OER repositories in the chat, and that's kind of where I start. I think it has always depended on how niche the subject area is that I'm looking for. So you can probably find like biology, for example, tons of stuff, a lot of it at grade school level and so on. But the more specific you get, the more nuanced the specific course you're working on is, the less likely you are to find something, which is why I think people need to start getting into the habit of creating those resources and filling those gaps, which of course is a huge, like it's a huge amount of time. It's not something we can just do, you know, but there's like a ton of standard ones out there where you can start, but it really depends on what you're looking for. And you might have to have someone write it or just use a textbook for that module or something, because sometimes it just isn't there.
And I know that's a good point that it's time consuming, and that's often one of the biggest obstacles that people kind of say is I don't have time to worry about it. But, are there other obstacles or things that you've heard from colleagues or even around in other institutions that are reasons why they might not be using OERs or kind of barriers there?
Hi, Laura, Dana here. Yeah, we've done a couple of years of faculty surveys related to open education resources and affordable learning materials. And I'm happy to circulate out what to you, and then you can share with the group however you please, the results of those surveys. For the most part, faculty, who have taken the survey will tell us that obstacles are, in addition to it being time consuming, that there's a concern about finding the appropriate level of materials, finding materials that are peer reviewed in some way or have some sort of peer review process. There are some hurdles about understanding exactly what the licenses mean at not being an attorney, et cetera, right? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure how I can use this. Good news is, Stephanie can answer all of those questions and then some about how you can use these things. And I pasted a link there, by the way, for the non-lawyers in the group, right? There's a link to the Creative Commons licensing types and sort of some plain speak, I guess, about what those licenses mean or can mean. So yeah, and Stephanie mentioned that CC by ND, which is a specific one of those license types, but there are a bunch of derivatives. Have a look sometime when you need some bedtime reading. But anyway, there's some of the other obstacles are finding materials that work with our learning management system and that can be integrated well into because the publishers make it so doggone convenient. The commercial publishers make it so convenient to use their stuff. And so there is a hurdle with, and some concerns about using something else that's not quite as convenient, because there's so many other things that can or will occupy your time as a member of our faculty, with the research and service components that are so very important, as well as teaching. So that's why we like to sell our instructional design team That's why we like to sell the university libraries. I mean, you don't have to go at it alone. That's the good news, right? Yes, it's time consuming. Let's admit that stuff. It's time consuming. There are hurdles, but there are people here who can help you and have already sort of crossed that bridge once or twice. That's the good news about this learning community. Anyway, done preaching. There you go. It's all back to you.
No, that's fantastic. And that would be great to see. Those are just what we hear too. I guess in general, any other topics that just in the first, if you've looked at the first couple modules, any questions or things to talk about as you're getting started, or any questions or anything like that? Yeah, I will say we have 4 total. This is the first live session. The next 2 are more the actual workshops, so they will be interesting. The next one is on November 1st on OER tools and resources. And then November 15th, we have the copyright and licensing. So both of those are kind of, fantastic because we have great leaders working on that. Tamara Butcher is going to help us with our OER tools and resources, and then Stephanie for the copyright and licensing.
This is David. I have a question. One of the topics that has come up with my service activity and also among my faculty is just a concern about quality of the materials. Are there any standards or organizations trying to rank quality, any way to indicate quality, or a platform that's developing that could be duplicated? What kind of efforts are already underway? We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but my service activity, they're looking at all the resources that are already out there and trying to put someone's stamp of approval on them, that they're current, they're less than 5 years old, they meet some kind of quality standard of a peer review of whoever's looking at it. But it kind of feels like we're reinventing the wheel by doing that. I'm wondering if that sort of structure already exists.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it also kind of, if we think about whether this will move toward being counted for promotion in tenure, you have to kind of consider that quality. I haven't heard, have you all heard much about that other than any ranking or quality control kind of checks?
It depends on, I know that OpenStax are peer reviewed, and I believe they're reviewed by faculty. So if we're not a member of OpenStax, I believe you have to get like a institutional membership. And if you do, then faculty at your institution sort of agree to review so many open textbooks, and that's how that platform functions. So all of their materials are free for you to use, but you have to be a member to sort of take advantage of that, getting your own stuff reviewed. I hope that makes sense. You can go to their site though and check it out. It does that. To me, that's the biggest one and the most high profile group that I know of. But I believe it's built into a couple of the other.
We explored some rubrics and evaluation criteria lists to go through too. I have them spread out in some folder I can't find right now, but I'd be glad to share them if I can find them.
And we do include, you'll see it in this one, we have a checklist that is itself an OER that was created, and we just merged 2 checklists.
The Textbook Alliance, and I think it's one, and then there's some more. I can't find them right now.
If you find them, we can
we went through. I'll look for them and get a link, I'll put them in our, my introductions discussion.
Awesome.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, it seems like it would be I wonder if it would be reinventing the wheel or interesting to look at getting credit for peer reviewing OERs, kind of like we do for articles and other book publications, but I don't know. Probably not anytime soon.
So I've been looking.
Yeah, good.
I've been looking at something called NTech Open series, and they pride themselves on peer reviewed, but also on continuous revision, which is so important in the healthcare fields. Now, they work with some of the science and technology, publishing associations, but getting to that point of working with a specific like David, I don't know, in particular, which accrediting agencies you work with, but that would be the next step, is to start getting some of those accrediting agencies to review some of the material.
The textbook, the legal textbook that I was talking about, it was originally published under Cali. And so I'll put a link to that. They have their own kind of publishing outfit. So it is peer reviewed.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh, yay. Okay, it took me forever to get that fixed. Okay, so a lot of the major OER places, they do have peer reviews. It's actually very standard to find those. So what you want to do is when you go into these things, you're going to look at them. They usually have them ranked for the most popular to the least popular. Most popular would be the ones that have been consistently peer reviewed because they're the ones that they are using all the time. So it's not just peer reviewed by just the faculty. It's going to be peer reviewed by people who are in that subject by the subject matter experts. Is going to be peer reviewed by students who have used that stuff because they're the ones that have to study it. It gets reviewed actually by everybody who uses that stuff. So you want to go and look to see what reviews have been not only used, but how many people have used that material and how often the material has been changed. And a lot of those OER sites will have that on there. You can see which version they're up to. I know the OER Commons, because that's the one with the colorful covers on there that are very plain. All the ones that are the most popular are the first ones you'll see on the screen, and then each successive screen has less and less. But you can also look on their pages where you would normally see all the publisher information. They'll also have on there how many times it's been reviewed, edited, who's been editing it. So when you're looking at those reviews, you also want to look at who has been the editors or who has been reviewing it. Is it a PhD student? Is it an actual faculty member? Or is it just, an undergrad? Who is reviewing this stuff? You're going to want to look up the people who are doing that, especially if it's a newer one. Because even though it may not have been reviewed a lot, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad one. It's just, it may be a niche market for that subject, or it may be that it hasn't really needed a whole lot of editing or review yet or something like that. So those are all things you're going to want to keep in mind. I'm a massive, massive fan of OER. And I will say that ACC has one of the best OER checklists that exist. And that's the one I give out a lot. Theirs is phenomenal, and it covers everything you need with, I mean, it doesn't go into minute things. So if you are really doing a peer review, you might want to look at something that's more in depth, but just to check out an OER, you definitely want to look at ACC's checklist because theirs is fantastic. Just for trying to find something that you want to use for a class or professional development. All right, I'm very excited that I got to talk. Yay!
Oh, that's really very cool and helpful. I was just looking at the OER Texas and I hadn't noticed. Yeah, you can sort by reviews, and that seems really helpful. Any others have follow-up thoughts? I guess it's almost like Yelp, but better, obviously. But,
Well, and the super cool thing about those is the more they've been reviewed, the more exercises have been added. So honestly, if you get one of the more popular ones, you won't have to do anything. You can literally look at it and just take everybody else's material. It's a beautiful thing. Especially if you get the class last minute and you're like, oh, good, I teach this in 3 days. Awesome. So, look for that stuff too.
yeah, I hope they start adding, everyone can start adding more of the supplementary materials too. That's really helpful. Any other thoughts or discussion in general? OER fun. No. I guess feel free to also use the discussion in Canvas to kind of reach out and keep discussing and talking as things pop into mind. But, yeah, we can I guess end it here. It's really good to see all of you all and put faces to name, and I'm glad you're signed up and going to hopefully really enjoy the course this semester. For those able to attend, I guess we will see you in person again November 1st, and just know that you're out there in Canvas between now and then. But yeah, so thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great week. And thanks, Calcom team and everyone for attending. All right. Bye, everyone.